What's up, everybody, on a Thursday night? Glad that you are here. Glad that you're with me. Welcome in. And we're talking about the story still of the college football world, the attempted poaching of the Alabama roster, more specifically, the flaunting of that effort, possibly anyway, of Lane Kiffin and whatever else comes up in chat tonight. You guys know the drill by now. If you are a first-time viewer, thank you. Welcome. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Like the video and hit the notification bell so you know when I go live. Also, I think I'm going to start posting more, hopefully daily as the content turns. So be on the lookout for that. Glad you guys are here. Leave a comment. Even if you are not live watching, I still appreciate comments. I read them. And they help me out a ton. So thank you for that. Glad that you guys are here. I am Michael Borky. Let's talk some college football, and more specifically, the sightseeing tour that Lane Kiffin took in Tuscaloosa yesterday. If those pictures were in fact taken yesterday, which it certainly seems like they were. Ole Miss is actively recruiting at least one current Alabama player. There's also if you're a podcast listener, you heard this earlier today, but there's a picture floating around of Pete Golding possibly visiting with said player. It is kind of wild right now. I mean, truly, take the Alabama and the emotions of the not feeling bad for Alabama out of this, and it is pretty insane that it is allowed. I mean, it's within the rules that opposing coaches can just, take their little private jet or their helicopter, if it's Kirby Smart, and hop on over to a college town and actively recruit the players that are on that team. It is pretty wild that this is the scenario that's been created. But from the Kiffin perspective, I honestly, there's a couple of things at play here that I want to talk to. Then I want to get to your messages and all that. The first is the obvious. We've talked about it a lot on the radio show and on the podcast. You heard about it, but it bears repeating. The whining and the complaining that you're not just seeing from Alabama fans. Of course, Alabama fans are bothered by this, and I hope they enjoyed the last 17 years because it's not going to be the same for them. This is reality now in college football. Get used to it. This has happened to everybody else in the SEC. Join the club. You've been doing it to other people. This is what happens when things change for you. But some of the media reaction, not all of it, because a lot of college football media have been the same as me, where welcome to the real world. But you're seeing some of the, well, now things have to change. This really isn't sustainable. This isn't fair, whatever. Let's pretend for a second like the aforementioned Lane Kiffin were to be offered the Carolina Panthers job. Let's just pretend for a second that were to happen and he would go be the head coach of the Panthers. They've got an opening right now, and they want to go the college route. They hire Lane Kiffin. And for the next 30 days, the Ole Miss roster would be able to hit the transfer portal. What do you think Kalen DeBoer in Alabama would do? What do you think they would do if the Ole Miss roster came open like that? I mean, Kalen DeBoer would find a way to teleport to Jackson Dart's front door. And, I mean, would do anything to get him to come to Alabama. And any decent player on Ole Miss's roster, they would try to take. So, using Alabama as the catalyst for this is wrong, this needs to change, is hilarious to me, because they would be doing the exact same thing to somebody else. And, frankly, the reaction wouldn't have been the same. Alabama took a quarterback from Washington today. Does anybody feel bad for Washington? Why is it only Alabama that gets the this has to change reaction? But I love this. I love that Kiffin does this. And here's why. And it's not just an Ole Miss thing either. I think that despite him being a bit of a troll, you saw it with his trolling of Texas A&M while Jimbo was there. You're seeing it now with Hugh Freeze, just kind of poking at Hugh Freeze whenever he can. But I can't help but wonder if what has happened with Alabama in the transfer portal, where Lane Kiffin is so comfortable. He's so comfortable going to Tuscaloosa to recruit current Alabama players, that he's willing to take pictures and just send them out to the world of the Saban statue, of the University of Alabama 1 mile away sign, of a low-hanging bridge with Roll Tide painted across of it. I mean, He's so open about, yeah, I'm going to do this to you. Here I come. That although he's got that track record of being that troll, I can't help but wonder if what you're going to see moving forward is a Tiger Woods effect when it comes to Alabama. And here's what I mean by that. I'm not saying, by the way, that Kalen DeBoer is not going to win games. I think he will. I think he's going to win a lot of games. I think he's going to have playoff appearances. I think he will compete for championships. He's really, really, really good. And look at his staff. His staff is excellent. They're going to get good players. That they are, and they're going to win games. But the Tiger Woods effect in golf, and especially since there's no opponent in golf, like there's nobody in your way. It's you versus the course, and that's really it. When Tiger Woods' name would show up on a leaderboard, players around him would play differently on the leaderboard. Not even guys in his group. If you were the leader in a golf tournament and you saw Woods 2 back, there was a clear impact on that player at the top of the leaderboard. The Tiger Woods effect was real. He had this kind of intimidation, this gravitas in the sport of golf, of all things. He was intimidating. His name scared other golfers on the leaderboard. You had this, forgive my language, everybody, but you had this, oh shit, here he comes moment. And it caused guys to play differently, approach things differently. They tightened up because they were so afraid of Tiger Woods. We had somebody on the radio show when I brought that up say Dale Earnhardt, that Dale Earnhardt had that same impact on other drivers, that when he was behind you, it caused you to drive differently. Nick Saban's Alabama had that effect on other teams. They absolutely had that effect on other teams. There was the mental game, the emotional game that came with that. And the late Mike Leach, rest his soul, talked about it after his team played Alabama one year. I'm paraphrasing the quote. I probably should have it up to directly quote him, but he essentially said, lost the game before we took the field. They saw the helmet and they were done. Because that was, and it wasn't that they saw Alabama's helmet and they were done. They saw Nick Saban's Alabama helmet and they were done. I can't help but wonder if the way that other schools are attacking Alabama's roster, the way that Florida State is, the way that Texas is, the way that Georgia went and took a coach, and the goings on so far tells you that the people around the SEC smell blood in the water, where that intimidation factor is no more. I bet if you had truth serum from coaches, not just Mike Leach, who was wonderfully honest, they would tell you that when Alabama showed up on the schedule, you had kind of a kind of reaction. There was that feeling when you had to play Alabama. It was a chore, not an opportunity. And they tried to sell their teams that it was an opportunity, but it was a chore. It was something that you had to go through and deal with, and not something that you were really looking forward to. As great as Kalen DeBoer is going to be at Alabama, and I think he's going to be great, if you asked a single coach, one coach on Alabama's schedule, you scared? They're all going to answer no. Tiger Woods is no longer on the leaderboard. Dale Earnhardt's no longer driving behind you. They're just another team in the SEC. Very good team, great infrastructure, great history, great tradition, great fans. But that's everybody in the league now. They had a great equal. They had a trump card. They had a cheat code. They had a difference maker. They had an unfair advantage, even though they hired him, and they're the reason why they had that unfair advantage. That was Nick Saban. That's gone now. Who doesn't have a really good coach in the SEC? Not many teams. Georgia's got a great coach. Ole Miss has got a great coach. Eli just won 10 games at Missouri. You think Tennessee's not trending in the right direction? Brian Kelly's been remarkably consistent. Sark just went to the playoff. That's what it is now. Kind of feels like they're just like everybody else. Very, very good. Nobody's afraid of you anymore. That's what the recent stuff tells me. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know. I don't care. I've enjoyed Lane Kiffin's tweets. I think it's really funny. And you know that he, in particular, drives those people nuts by doing that because it's him, not just any coach, but it has to be that coach that is flaunting the fact that he is going to their town trying to get their players. So I will shut up now and we will get to your comments for the next 20 minutes or so. Going to be a little bit of a shorter one tonight. I got some things that I've got to take care of here, but I didn't want to miss a live. So anyway, let's get to it. Yo, this is a first comment. Love to see it. Glad to see you. Joey says, howdy tight from Macomb. Glad to see you, Joey. Another one like this from Edward. Like you said on your podcast, the staff at Ole Miss is doing a nice job of replacing what they lost and making it potentially better in some instances. Exactly. So when they lost Barron, when they lost McDonald, when they lost these guys, Richardson, it felt like those were big losses because those are quality players. You've seen them produce in the SEC. But when you replace McDonald with Yam Banks, who's a better prospect on paper, well, and it's probably cheaper. I don't know that for sure, but that would be my guess. Even if not, it doesn't matter. You went 1 for 1, if not an upgrade. If they're able to get this dude from Arizona State, apparently there's some travel logistics because of the ice in Oxford, but if they're able to get him, it's a 1 for 1. If either one of the Alabama soon to transfer, it seems they're getting a visit anyway. So if that ends up working out, and also this Michigan corner, then you at least replaced Richardson with guys that have the ceiling of Richardson, if not the experience. So yeah, they are handling losses in the portal quite well because they're just going out and finding the next guy that is equally as capable of doing just that. I mean, we had somebody text the show today that was like, hey, I kind of feel like Ole Miss lost their momentum. Is that true? And I said, no, not really. They're right back where they were. It's kind of incredible. You're friends with a lot of Bama fans. They all like Kiffin and think he's a great coach. Most wanted him to replace Saban, but they're nervous when they see him recruiting Bama players. And the thing is, only Lane Kiffin is telling people that he's there. Other coaches are there. Promise you. Other coaches are in Tuscaloosa, also recruiting them. Lane Kiffin's the only one that's willing to just announce to everybody that he's there. It's pretty incredible. The Alabama crybaby stuff is very funny and has to be liberating for other fan bases, but you seriously wonder if a brand as big as that complains enough that will lead to expedited change. Like I said on the podcast, so you said you listened to it. So like I said, did I talk about this there? I didn't. We talked about this on the radio show yesterday. I always forget where I say things. Nothing can change. And here's what I mean by that. If the NCAA tries to take power back without making the players employees, they will lose. They will get sued and they will lose. It's really that simple. They will get sued and they will lose. The only way that this gets fixed is if they make the athletes employees. If you paid attention to the congressional hearing today, you learned that nothing got done and nothing will get done up there. So Congress is basically out. They're not going to fix this. The NCAA can't because the courts have rendered them powerless because you can't enforce a non-compete on a non-employee. They are regular students per the NCAA. The NCAA claims that they're regular students. The only way to restrict movement is to make them an employee. The only way to limit income is to collectively bargain with them. Like the NFL, you can't do that until you make them employees. There is no restrictions that can be levied. There is no salary cap that can be levied until that day comes. So until that day comes, nothing's going to happen. Alabama can kick and cry and scream and carry on. If the NCAA tries, they will get sued and they will lose because God bless America. There's still some things that we have or some freedoms that we still have in this country. And one of them is nobody can tell me where I can and cannot move. And nobody can tell me how much money I'm allowed to make. And if they do, it's because I collectively bargained an agreement that tells me how much money I make that I mutually sign. And a court, as they've shown time and time again, agrees with that, and they will not disagree with that. We do have a constitution, although it seems like the enforcement of it is flimsy at best anymore. Sorry, I'm getting political. Um, the point is, the players know that. They understand that they are engaging in a free market, and the free market says they're very valuable. And a judge is not going to say, hey, you're not an employee. You're not allowed to make money. Nope, that's anti American. And they know that. So, if I were Lane Kiffin, who would I hire for wide receivers coach and tight ends coach? Ooh, that's a great question. I don't know. I had a group message talking about Jacob Peeler recently, bringing him back. I don't know where he is right now, honestly. Let's see. He's at Missouri. Oh, man. And he's at Missouri as a wide receivers coach. That was an interesting name that came out there. I'll be honest with you, Gary. I don't know. And especially because of how Kiffin has operated in hiring staffs in the past, most of his hires have come like out of left field, and not in a bad way. It's just most of these guys you don't hear about until they hire them. It's a good thing if you're an Ole Miss fan. It's a very good thing to hear that for sure, because that means he has a ton of connections all over the coaching industry. So I wish I could answer you better. I don't know who all's out there and who would make sense. I don't have that kind of knowledge about assistant coaches around college football. Why do I think the 3 transfers flipped from Ole Miss to Louisville? Could be different reasons for each. I mean, didn't one's brother go to Louisville? Wasn't that McDonald whose brother went to Louisville? I think. For the Illinois transfer, it was a off the field academic issue, apparently, where would not have been able to go to school at Ole Miss. And then for Barron, I don't know. Maybe it was money. Maybe it was a guaranteed starting spot. I'm not sure. But I do know that Louisville's an attractive place now. People have got to change their mindset on the structure of college football. Louisville has a good, exciting coach. They are involved in the NIL game, and they're in a power conference. I know it's not the Big Ten or the SEC, but the 12-team playoff is 12 teams for everybody. And Louisville, if they win 10 games, they make the playoff. So an opportunity to make the playoff. They're involved in NIL, and their coach is exciting. And that is going to lead to players going to that school. The history component, the brand component doesn't matter anymore. That's why Ole Miss is able to get the number 1 defensive lineman in the portal. And that's why Missouri is able to do what they've done. And programs like this, Syracuse is doing a really good job in the portal right now. Those kind of programs are able to do this in this new era. And so you've got to stop thinking that, oh, it's Louisville. Louisville has no history. They're not even the SEC. They've got the coach right. They've got the money right. And they have a roster that should compete for a championship. Louisville's an attractive place for players right now to go to. So, Jaheim Otis to Ole Miss. I mean, he's got to hit the portal first. I know I've got one group message just absolutely buzzing about Jaheim Otis, but got to hit the portal first before I'd start thinking that he's going to go somewhere. You know what I mean? I mean, until he does, there's just no way to believe that that's going to happen. Now, I know a lot of people are talking about that. You would assume if he does that Ole Miss would be an attractive place for him returning to Mississippi, but until he does, I don't know. Bama has a tough schedule and could easily fall into 8 or 9 wins in year 1 of DeBoer, which will cause mass panic in Tuscaloosa. Yeah, let's look at this thing because they go to Madison, Wisconsin. I think we talked about this the other day, didn't we? They go to Madison, Wisconsin in week 3. So it's Western Kentucky, USF at Wisconsin, bye week, Georgia at home, at Vanderbilt, South Carolina at home, at Tennessee, Missouri at home, bye week, at LSU, Mercer, cool, at Oklahoma and Auburn. So the road games are Wisconsin, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, LSU, and Oklahoma. They have to play Georgia, and they have to play Missouri. That's brutal, man. That is brutal. A great team loses 3 games with that schedule. Certainly can anyway. It's never too early to look at mock drafts, Hunter. Never, ever, ever uh, too early. So another wide receiver. Uh, we don't need a wide receiver. Even if they trade Michael Thomas, he's not needed. It's not needed. I don't understand it. Olave, Shaheed, and Perry are fine. You need offensive line help. You need pass rush. Oh, if they draft a wide receiver, I mean, whatever. That's frustrating. I get he's a good player, but gosh, come on. You think Nick Saban had a real mental effect on Kiffin? There's no doubt about that. His teams in 22 and 23 were plenty good to beat Bama, and you thought Kiffin got tight, especially this year. Outside of Auburn, obviously, State, Arkansas, and Tennessee have to be the most thankful that they have 2 wins combined in 17 years against Alabama. Arkansas, State's last was in 2007. Yeah, been quite some time. Shout out to Peddle. Glad you're here, man. Good to see you. Memphis just lost to USF, blew a 20-point lead. Wow. So Texas blows a lead last night. By the way, welcome to the SEC. And then Memphis blows a big lead tonight, too. That's college basketball, man. Anna, glad to see you. Hope you're being safe up there in Oxford. I know that the ice is brutal. You've heard that Nick Saban was probably a large part or the majority of their NIL foundation. Yeah, enough people around the program and that would know have talked about the concept of players not needing to get paid that much to go to Alabama because of Nick Saban, that they were willing to take a discount to go play for Nick Saban. I talked to somebody in recruiting. This was a long time ago. This was before NIL, but I remember, this was when I was in college. But I remember there was a player that visited Ole Miss, ended up going to Alabama, and once he got the Alabama offer, the people in recruiting knew it was over. Nothing you could do. Didn't matter. No amount of money, no new car, nothing. It doesn't matter. He's going to Alabama. There's nothing you can do once that offer comes. And it's been that way for a lot of players. Now, they've got a gigantic fan base. It's a state that really cares about football. I assume they'll be able to figure out the money thing. You would think that they would be able to with the sheer size of their fan base and now the understanding of got to pay to win. But in the NIL game, you never want to be behind, right? At any point, you never want to be behind. And at least for the time being, it's possible that they're behind. Will they catch up? I think so. But as of this moment, ask a Mississippi State fan. I know there's some of you in here right now. Mississippi State's first NIL project was for baseball. Ask a Mississippi State fan how they feel about that decision, right? That was a terrible, as it turns out, a truly terrible idea. And they were behind. Every Mississippi State fan thinking clearly would admit that they set themselves back on NIL with leadership that was formerly in place there. Now they're doing good things, and Charlie's working hard, and the Bulldog Initiative is certainly catching up. But they started behind most people because they didn't have the foresight like some people did. And recovering is difficult because, again, they started with baseball. It's not good. It is not good at all. Wasn't good. They are improving. There's no doubt about that. But they started behind. You never want to start behind in this game because you got to catch up even more. It's not like you're starting behind and then you catch up to a ceiling. Everybody's raising their ceiling as you're trying to catch up to where they once were. So it's a chase. It's not catching up to a cap. You're trying to catch up in a race, an ongoing race. It's difficult. Alabama thought that they could use Nick Saban and the Alabama program as the main selling point to stay in mostly traditional recruiting, but they can't just stockpile whoever they want anymore. Another reason why Georgia's the best top to bottom program going forward in the SEC, they have the coach, the buy-in, and the balance of traditional recruiting, and they know the portal better. That's exactly right. Kirby Smart is willing to use it. Now, they are able, for a lot of reasons, they are able to get high school players at a really high volume. That is a thing that they are able to do clearly with how they recruit high school guys. But Kirby's not Dabo, where Dabo just refuses to get involved in the transfer portal. A very bad mistake on his part. It will be his downfall. So, you can praise about how noble he is, but it'll be his downfall. And Clemson fans won't give a what if it's noble. Because you're going to lose. And they pay you a $115 million contract not to lose, not to make statements. They pay you to win. So anyway, but yeah, Kirby's got it right. That right now feels like the new premier program in college football. To be honest with you, I think Ohio State, as I've told you guys before, is going to have a really, really, really good year. They're also doing it that way. They load up on high school kids, and when they lose players to the portal, they fill those needs with portal. Those, and that's why they're able to sustain it seems. So Vandy just got the New Mexico State quarterback too. That's a good pickup for Vanderbilt. He can play. Obviously, he went to Auburn and won, so clearly he can play. A good runner as well. Vanderbilt's done some nice things in the portal. I kind of admire them. Apparently, some people got involved and are trying to make them competitive, and we'll see where that goes. Everybody in the SEC. I know most of you guys are Ole Miss fans or State fans, and so you want the rest of the SEC to suck so your team can be good. But just as a football fan, it is so much better. It is so much more enjoyable. The product is so much easier to consume when Alabama and Georgia suck compared to what they usually are, and everybody else is good. I want more meaningful games. I don't want a single SEC versus SEC game to be a joke. And often the Vanderbilt game has been a joke for a lot of people. Seeing them compete, I think, is great for the league and great for college football. And because I want the Vanderbilt game to whoever they're playing, if it's the Missouri game or Tennessee or Mississippi State or whoever, I want that game to be competitive, right? The more the playing field is level, the more enjoyable the product is. I'm telling you, that's why people love the NFL so much, because every team feels like that they can win as long as you manage yourself correctly. Look at who's in the playoffs right now. So seeing that phenomenon happen in the SEC where Ole Miss is heavily, heavily, heavily invested in ways they never have been before, that's awesome for the SEC. Missouri being what they are now is awesome. It's great for college football. Vanderbilt trying is really good. And that quarterback, man, and he's a player. And if they can put some pieces around him, like I think they're going to, and like they already kind of have, they're not going to be an easy out, I don't think. A quarterback like that is not an easy out, regardless of what's around him, to be honest. Just ask Auburn. So I'm excited about that. I'm happy that Vanderbilt did that because it means a more competitive SEC. Thoughts on the Cowboys keeping McCarthy and probably running back everything? I've hated the Cowboys since I was a kid, despite an accusation from a listener on the radio show today. It is not an anti-Dak thing. I like Dak Prescott. I would like Dak Prescott to play for the Saints ahead of Derek Carr personally. But the numbers are what they are. He's not good in the playoffs. He only has 2 playoff wins in 8 years. But I like him. I've not liked the Cowboys since I was a kid. I hate the Cowboys. Never liked them. I enjoy watching them fail. I enjoyed, and I don't dislike Tony Romo. The video of him after the dropped extra point with his head down, sitting on the field, makes me laugh. I hate the Cowboys. I always have. So their demise is funny to me. However, Despite their failures in the playoffs, it's probably going to happen again. McCarthy did win 12 games 3 years in a row. They went 12-5 3 years in a row. Clearly, something there is working. Why is it not working in the postseason? God only knows. We'll see if running it back leads to different results. But it is, if you think about it from that perspective, more understandable. They went 12-5 3 years in a row. They have a roster that should make a deep playoff and Super Bowl run. But Dak has got to be better. And after 8 years, can he be? I don't care about regular season numbers. What are you in the postseason? That's all anybody cares about. And when the postseason comes, he's not enough. So how do they fix that? I don't know. But 12-5 3 years in a row is not nothing. State losing Cohen most likely kept them from falling into complete irrelevancy in NIL. Yes, sir. Yep. John Cohen going to Auburn was the best thing to happen to Mississippi State. I mean, it could not have been better for them. We'll see how his hires and moves go, but Selman is dancing circles around Cohen for sure. For sure. Seeing Selman work has really shown how bad of an AD Cohen was. Thank goodness he's Auburn's problem now. Love watching you. Just tuned in, but do I think Kiffin is in Bama to recruit? Absolutely. Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So it's been reported by multiple sites now that Ole Miss is getting a visit this weekend from a now former Alabama defensive back, Trey Amos. So maybe he was also trying to get in on some of the offensive players that have hit the portal. But yeah, I made the title sightseeing, but no, he was. If those pictures were current, which I assume that they were, considering the quality of them and the timing and the light, the lighting outside, and also the active recruiting of multiple Alabama players, yeah, that's what he would be in Tuscaloosa for, to try to poach their roster, as he should be. He and Pete Golding have connections on that roster for one reason or another. Pete Golding obviously recruited and coached a lot of the guys that are hitting the portal right now. Kiffin and Ole Miss recruited a lot of the guys that are on that roster that ended up not going to Ole Miss. There's a lot of ties there. So, yeah. Auburn has and will continue to be a mess in football and future planning. Yeah, I read that terribly, but I think you guys got the point. Manny not only got the New Mexico State quarterback, but Jerry Kill as well. They also play at Auburn late in the year next year. Yeah, how funny that would be. I mean, that would be poetry. Honestly, is what that would be. It would be poetry. I would enjoy every second of that game. Hugh Freeze is a joke. His coaching tree has no branches. Can't wait for the blame game again. But here's the thing, like you heard me say on the podcast, you can only do that once. You can only blame your offensive coordinator as an offensive-minded coach one time. You can only do that one time. The next time, rational people won't care. Who will be calling the plays at Auburn? If you believe Hugh Freeze, it will be Hugh Freeze. And yeah, you're right. It depends on how the game goes. No, at least that's what he said. And that's why Ole Miss is making a point to remind them that that's what he said. But that is what he said. In basketball, when is Ole Miss start being concerned about the metrics, 60th in the net, and the schedule isn't getting any easier. So what it seems like, Tucker, is that Joey Brackets, Joe Lenardi, seems to think that Ole Miss, as long as they get the right number of wins, will make the tournament, regardless of what their net is. What is that number? Is it 9? Do they have to get 10 somehow? But going into last night, and I don't think anything's changed, he had them making the tournament. So it seems like if they can just get to 9, if they can get to 500 in the league, not only will the net kind of work itself out because they will play a bunch of quad 1 teams and they will have to get quad 1 wins in there to bolster the resume, but they might be one of those teams that, because of their non-conference record in the league that they play in, that they might get the benefit of the metric doubt, which you do see sometimes. Um, at least that's what the expert thinks. If they lose to Arkansas, it's a cause for concern. Absolutely. That game is massive, 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 massive next week. Just watch Josh Pate. He thinks 2024 is just a one-time Ole Miss thing, not every year. What's your opinion on that? Depends on what he means by one-time Ole Miss thing. What does he mean by that? Because this past team would have made the playoff. So what's the one-time thing? Having a good roster that can compete for and make the playoff? They've already had that. They won 10 games 2 years ago also. So if he thinks that they are a champ, like a true like national title contender this year, then yeah, I don't think that's an annual thing. I think that'll be a once every 3-4 years kind of thing where you get the kind of perfect storm of players returning and portal and stuff like that. I don't think that Ole Miss will be able to field a national championship caliber roster on an annual basis. Can they be playoff competitive on an annual basis? Yes. So it depends on what he's talking about, because Ole Miss has proven infrastructure-wise that they can be a playoff contending team on an annual basis. They've proven that. That doesn't mean they'll make it every year, but they've proven that they compete for that every year. They've already proven that. So it depends on what he was referring to. You say he thinks highly of Kiffin and not of Ole Miss as a program. Ole Miss they're changing themselves financially anyway. Do I think Kiffin will start putting money into recruiting and less into portal? It's kind of already happened. If you look at their high school class, I mean, look at the defensive players that they signed in their high school class. It's already kind of happening. You don't think 2024 will be? You think 2024 will be better than 25? Most likely for Ole Miss. I agree. But you don't think they're a Cinderella playoff contender? They would have been 4 times now if the 12 team had started in 2014. Absolutely. And that includes Matt Luke years. That includes Hugh Freeze decimating the program on his way out the door as he resigned in shame. That is 4 times since 2014. So that's 4 times in 10 years with all of that going on as well. So he doesn't think Little Mississippi can keep putting a lot of money into NIL, was your opinion of what he said. Well, let them prove it wrong. If Kermit was still at Ole Miss, no matter if they were 5-9, he'd still have a competitive game versus Auburn. Yeah, he really coached well under or against Pearl, didn't he? He really did. Arkansas is so weird under Muss. Yeah, they are, Tucker. They always seem to be awful in early January. Then they end up in the Sweet 16. I mean, Ole Miss might be getting a really hot Arkansas team. So Ohio State just hired Bill O'Brien as offensive coordinator. No way. Did they really? Let me try to find it. When I'm a little behind on tweets, I don't scroll through these while I'm talking to you guys. Wow. How about that? Bill O'Brien, the new offensive coordinator at Ohio State. Wow. Ryan Day is going to give up play calling duties. Very, very interesting. Q is going to love Bill O'Brien. Well, he's not going to start. Travion Henderson's a first-round caliber back. He didn't return to split carries. So Travion Henderson's going to like Bill O'Brien. But anyway. By the way, guys, if you live in Mississippi, my record prediction of Ole Miss next year, 10-2 until I see if they're done adding on the offensive line. So that's where I'm going to sit until I see what else they do in the portal. Here's your PSA, because I have a platform and I'm going to use it to do good. I shouldn't have teased it that way because this isn't good. This is more of I'm trying to get people on the same bandwagon that I'm on. If you live in Jackson South, so if you live in Jackson South and you've got nothing going on tomorrow, the New Orleans Pelicans are going to be on over-the-air television. Yes, over-the-air television. You don't have to pay for anything. If you have Hulu or YouTube TV, you won't get it. If you have an antenna, an HD antenna, which is what I've got, you can get it. Or if you have like a regular cable package, you can get it. They will be on your local station from Jackson South. This is the second of 10 times this year that they're doing this. And if they go well, then the team will likely sign on with, oh gosh, what are they called? I forget what the company's called that owns all these stations in Louisiana and Mississippi and I think Mobile as well, where they'll be aired. But if you got nothing to do, check them out. They're a fun team. I'm just saying, they're available for you to watch. You should watch. Okay, I'm done. I promise. I'm done. I promise. As long as Keith Carter is AD and Walker Jones is running the collective, you think Ole Miss will be just fine. I agree. Prediction 10-2 with losses at LSU and Georgia. As of now, those are my two as well. Tiger Stadium's just really tough. Really, really tough. Ole Miss would have raised their NIL to something similar if Hugh Freeze was the head coach. Up until the end, anyway. Pre-COVID fan buy-in would likely be easier on NIL, probably. Inflation is, yes, it is. Everything is just more expensive these days. It is not fun. Has Lane snagged a few from Tuscaloosa? Not yet. Not yet. It seems like one is inevitable, but it has not happened yet. So anyway, I got to run, guys. I went longer than I was planning on, but because I had fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed this as well. I appreciate you. You know I love you. Please like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll be back Sunday live. I'll post something on here before then, but we'll be back live on Sunday, 8 o'clock on Sunday night is when we'll start. So looking forward to seeing you guys then. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your hoops. Enjoy your football. We barely talk football. That's okay. We'll do that Sunday, although there will be a game going on. Oh, well, we'll still do that Sunday, 8 o'clock. See you guys then, and y'all have a great, safe weekend. Enjoy yourselves. I'll talk to you Sunday.